if I traded it all, if I could.
So welcome to the show, everyone. We're already having fun here in the studio. We are going to have fun networking with everyone out there. I can't wait to bring on my first guest. I love him. I have with me Michael Van Vleck. He is the owner of Denali Real Estate.
Hi, Carol.
Hi, welcome back to this show. We were talking earlier. It's been a while that you've been on now. You've been coming on for a long
like
time.
2 years.
Few years now. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Denali Real Estate is an Arizona-based real estate brokerage. We help folks buy and sell properties, and we also do property management for residential properties.
And you come on here, and you've been on here a long time because you love to educate the public.
That's really what it's about. What we cover on the show is just snippets of what we usually talk to people about when they call and ask either about our services or just about real estate in general. So what I do is part of that dialogue that we have with them, I just cut out little snippets, and that's what we talk about here, which is usually the idea behind it is just either tips, tricks, or thoughts on what things you might want to consider. And usually whenever we have a conversation with folks on the phone, we kind of take a step back. It's not such a marketing thing as it is, let's educate you, explain things, explain how we do things compared to the marketplace, so that people can find the right company for them.
Well, what you've said before is you like to arm people with
right.
good information so that they can make good choices.
That's right. I can't believe you remember that.
I have it right here. I write it down. We're live on Facebook, so I want to say hi to everybody out there. Like us and follow us. We're going to be sharing the show afterwards. Today you said you want to talk about some things to consider when hiring a property manager.
That's right. So with real estate right now, particularly in the Phoenix area, there are a lot of people that are considering investing here and are investing here, more so because areas such as California has a huge population. A lot of those folks don't want to invest in California for a number of things, whether it be political, the economics of it, taxes. They also have regulatory concerns. So California happens to be a big investor in Arizona real estate or residents of California. So
I am.
Yeah. I mean, so it's helpful, for folks that are coming here, they always look at it. For example, we had somebody that called this past week and said, I'm buying a property. I need to find a property manager. And one thing I had told them in the beginning is you want to find a property manager if you're going to need one as soon as possible, even before you buy a property. If you can't find one in a particular city that you're looking to buy a property, then don't buy a property there.
Do you help people with that? If somebody's considering buying a property here, do you help that?
Yeah, we do. So some people come to us and they already have an agent, totally fine. Some people come to us before that. Whether you have an agent or not, obviously we can help them and transact the business. I'm a real estate broker, and we have agents at Denali Real Estate. And we specialize specifically for investors, right? So we can absolutely help that. But if they have their own agent, that's fine too. Our biggest assistance is if they've identified a property, like we had somebody this past week that wanted to hire us and subsequently did, but they bought their property so far out in the middle of nowhere that it really doesn't make sense as an investment, but their agent had told them what a great investment it is. So they purchased that property, and now it's going to be a rental. But it's really, at their disadvantage because they're going to have a hard time finding tenants. People aren't going to necessarily want to move out that far away from the city.
Well, I would think that when you're looking to maybe purchase some property here to rent out, it's perfect to have some communication with someone like you because
That's right.
Obviously people they want to sell their property, and they want to, that person did that. But when they talk to you, you would explain that to them, and they'd say, no, that's not a good property for me to get.
And we do partner with agents. So we partner with agents locally that are working in the local area, and we'll become part of their team. In other words, we'll help them be successful. A lot of agents are very good at transacting business and helping buyers that are going to move in a home, but they don't necessarily know how to identify good investment properties. That's where we can help them. So we'll become a part of their team, and when they think they found a good property, it's like, send it to us. I'll run the analytics for them, give them my opinion, and we'll be part of their team and help their client be successful. They end up having that client for much longer, and when that client goes to sell that property, we make sure that they use that agent again.
Now, the phone number to call you, it is 480-626-4062. His website is DenaliArizona.com. Let's talk about that communication here.
It is. So one thing that people always ask before, when they're looking at hiring a property manager is, how do I find one? What's the best way I can go about actually finding a property manager? So obviously you can do a Google search. That helps. There are also websites that a lot of people are using to find different places, like Angie's List. You can go on Angie's List and look for a property manager there.
You can listen to this show and listen to
You can, yes. So we've had a client that went on the Better Business Bureau and hired us because our reviews were far and away better. We are A+ rated at the Better Business Bureau. On Angie's List, we are an A-rated management company. I believe we're the only one in the area that is A-rated for them. Some people use another website called Thumbtack. We were just last week named Thumbtack's top pro for property management in Phoenix. So we're the only one.
Why.
We're the only one that has received that award. So
awesome. So
there's different ways that you can find a property manager, regardless of how you do it. It's likely that we're listed there, and likely that we're listed at the top, either by ourselves or amongst one or two other people. So I recommend people search, call a couple, at least companies, 2 or 3 or 4, however many, and go through that process. It's important to talk to more.
You tell them that.
I do. I always say call more.
Because you're going to because they're going to hear different sides of what other people do, but then when they listen to you, you offer so much more.
Well, so I had a meeting yesterday with, because we also manage small community HOAs. I had a meeting with a small community board, and they had some questions and things, and I encouraged them, call and get other bids. Like, I want you guys to go through that process. It's important to do your due diligence, especially them, because they have a responsibility to their community. But definitely do it. I think it's a good idea. I'm not afraid of competition. I know what's out there and what we offer compared, so I'm totally okay with it.
Check him out on his website. It's DenaliArizona.com. His phone number is 480-626-4062. Go ahead.
So communication is the number one thing. It's the number one reason that people fire their property manager. So if you're looking for a reason to fire your property manager, that's what it's going to be. It's almost always it. I always encourage people to call around and talk to other companies, and one of the reasons why is I know that when they do, they're going to realize that either they can't get someone on the phone or they won't even get back to them in a reasonable time. I always tell folks, if you're a property manager or somebody that you're asking to get business, right? So you're engaging them and saying, hey, I'd like to consider you for business. If they can't get back to you in a timely manner for that, imagine what they're doing to your tenant down the road, right? It's likely that that's going to be even a lower priority than somebody who's trying to bring in revenue.
Right. It's amazing how people can be, and communication is the key.
It is number one. As you can imagine, with a property manager of any size, volume tends to get in the way. Like if you're not structured in the right way where you can handle those volumes, that becomes a problem. Like, I encourage anybody, call our office, 480-626-4062. There's somebody there right now. Somebody will answer. If on the weekend you have to leave a message, somebody will get back to you quickly. And that's just how we do business, and it's been a huge factor in our success.
We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk further. And what he says all the time is that when you call them, there's always someone there to answer the phone. And on the weekends, they'll call you right back. So the phone number to call them, it's 480-626-4062. Check him out on his website. It's DenaliArizona.com. You can check him out anywhere. He's got 5-star ratings all across the board. Angie's List, Thumbtack, the Better Business Bureau, and more. Again, that number to call him is 480-626-4062.
If I traded it all, if I gave it all.
So welcome back, everyone. And we are talking with Michael Van Vleck, and he is the owner of Denali Real Estate. And we've been talking a little bit about, what to consider when you're hiring a property manager. And One of them, the first one that people say that you say that people that would fire someone for is the communication, which they do not have to worry when they work with you.
Well, I mean, communication is really big. I'd actually talked to somebody yesterday, and they had said that they have a property manager, and their issue is they have a couple vacancies. They're not getting filled. They're not getting any communication. For us, just as a way of comparison, when we have an owner that has a property that's vacant, we are speaking to them at least weekly on because we're tracking all the calls, every email, all the showings, all the feedback. We track all that information, and then each week, at a minimum, we go over that information with each owner to if we have to make adjustments or what kind of feedback are we getting. So we have that discussion, so it's very fluid. So we're making decisions as we go, as opposed to putting your house on the market and hoping and praying that it rents, and maybe in 30 days it does and maybe it doesn't. Our rental process is much faster than that, and part of that is the communication. If you have communication with the owner and on some key areas, then you'll be successful. But a lot of places have issues in that area, which is why we've been able to do well.
Right. Now, what is it? Okay, there's a couple other things. The contract, you say, that's important.
Yeah, you should review the contract. This is pretty simple. There's a couple things as far as a contract you got to look for. Number one is you want to make sure you're not locked in long term and that there's no termination penalties. A lot of management companies now, they might say you can get out any time, but if you do within the first year, you have to still pay them as if they managed it the whole year. Some of them even tie it to the lease. So if they sign a tenant on a 2-year lease, for example, and you terminate them before that lease ends, you still owe them the money for that 2 years. It's crazy, and most people don't know to look for it, but you definitely need to look for that. And in our agreement, you can cancel anytime. There's no penalties. I want all of our clients to be happy, and I want them to know that we're fighting for them every day, and we're not, hiding behind some agreement that they're stuck in or
That's
that they'll
awesome.
have to pay to get out of.
I love that about you.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
What about the fees?
Fees are kind of the same. You just want to ask what their fees are. There's a lot of hidden fees. There's a lot of fees that people charge that you don't know. Our fee structure is very basic. We have a management fee and a leasing fee. Both are highly competitive, and that's it. So we don't have a lot of the other things that people charge for. People charge for inspections. They charge if you want to renew the lease with your current tenant. It's just stuff like that that I don't believe in. I don't like nickel and diming. It annoys me. I don't like being nickeled and dimed, so we don't do that as well. So I think that's a big deal. One of the things that does also tie into communication, though, is the maintenance part. Maintenance, as it turns out, is the number 2 reason why people fire their current property manager. A lot of times what happens is property managers do maintenance on their property without telling the owner, or their agreement has some sort of limitation where it allows the property manager to just send somebody. Some agreements that you sign will say that you agree that their property manager gets to use their own vendors or whatever vendors they choose. And sometimes that's not necessarily in the owner's best interest because they choose whoever to get it done the fastest, and it may not be the most cost-effective or
the
value
right way.
added. Yeah, it may not. So we've had owners that have come over that have said, in the past they've paid $200 to replace a toilet tank flapper, which is a $5 item, and it takes 5 minutes to do it. So $200 is crazy, but it happens. But so we don't do that. All of our maintenance goes to the owner first. We have a discussion about it. We get as much information as we can. And then we get approval from the owner to do whatever they want to do. Use whatever vendor they want to use or whatever method they want.
But you have the communication with them
That's right.
first, and you talk to them. You don't
That's
just
right.
take care of it.
That's right. No, it doesn't mean that we can't. We do have some owners that say,
They're
please,
not here.
please
Just
take care of it. But even in those instances, we still communicate to the owner because we have clients from all over the world, and some of them are far away or time difference. So in some cases, they'll say, look, I want you to handle certain things in my absence, but we'll still send them an email or whatever method they prefer.
This is what we're doing.
This is what happened. This is what's going on. This is what we expect the cost to be. That way they can give us feedback if they need to. It's really important to have that communication through that process. I always tell an owner, you're hiring a manager to act on your behalf and handle things on your behalf, but you're still the owner. So don't give up the ownership part, meaning make sure that you're always approving the tenants. You're the final approval on pets. Any maintenance that comes up, you're getting asked about it. Before they sign any sort of lease with a tenant, you know what's going on and who the tenant is and all these kinds of things. So be the owner, manage the manager, and make them do all the work, but don't give up that control over those things. That's really important.
Their phone number is 480-626-4062. It's Denali, Arizona.com. Leasing.
Yeah, leasing is a big thing. For us, our leasing process is a little bit different. We charge a flat fee for our leasing. It's $295. If you happen to call us and mention the show, we'll actually do it for free. So I'll waive the $295, which is already an incredible deal. We don't make money on leasing. It's very different. Most places will charge a half a month to 1 month of rent. To lease your property. It's the going rate, it's the fair rate, but the problem is that if I can make $1,000 on leasing, for example, versus the amount that you make for management, in our case it's a flat $85, if we do that, then we're incentivized to lease your property. We're incentivized to not care if your tenant leaves in a year. If they leave in a year, whippy-doo, we go back and make $1,000 again. So in that scenario, the manager is actually incentivized to have tenant turnover, and especially if they're using their own vendors, right, for maintenance and things. So they're incentivized to have turnover, and that's not in the owner's best interest. The owner wants a good long-term tenant.
Absolutely.
So in my case, if I'm going to lose money on leasing, you can bet that my screening is designed around looking for tenants that I believe have long-term tendencies, of tenants that have certain characteristics that are more indicative of longer-term tenants. So our average tenancy is far longer than a year. The last time I ran numbers, about 3.5 years is our average tenancy,
nice.
Which is a big, huge number.
It means a lot to somebody who's trying to rent their properties out.
That's right. So if your property's coming vacant every year, that's a cost every year that's going to hit you. So you need a manager that's focused on a long-term tenant. Why am I focused on long-term tenant? Because I don't make money on leasing, right?
But also the person that's listening to this has got to like that idea. Every time they get somebody new in, they got to start over. It's like a brand new thing every time.
And it's expensive, right? You may have lost rent, right? You might have wear and tear items that are considered normal that you still have to do as an owner. You're missing rent. But there's also the psychological component of it. As an owner, you're stressed because you
got to get someone in there.
That's right.
You want that person in there. Yeah.
And then your concern is, well, if my property manager is going to make $1,000 or $1,500 every time they lease it, then they're probably only looking for a 1-year tenant, somebody they think will stay for a year, and whether the tenant stays or goes, they don't really care because they're going to make money.
And I like the way you said it, because you better believe we what?
What do you mean?
We make sure that you got long-term clients.
Well, that's the idea, right? If I'm not going to make money on leasing, I have to get you a long-term client. I have to. Otherwise, I go back to leasing and lose money again.
Their phone number is 480-626-4062. It's Denali, Arizona.com. I want to go to guarantees.
Well,
I love guarantees. What are they?
Everybody loves a guarantee.
Well, that's why I wanted to get to them.
Well, the one thing about guarantees is I will say this. The reason I have guarantees is they make people feel warm and fuzzy, right? That's really what they are.
I love them.
They make you feel great. But you don't want to offer a guarantee, truly, as a business owner, I don't want to offer a guarantee that I feel like we can't meet. So you don't want to say, hey, I'm going to sell brake pads and I'm going to offer this, lifetime guarantee or whatever, but they're going to break every 6 months. You'll go out of business. In my case, the guarantees that we offer, which are substantial, we offer them because I know that we're going to meet our obligations, right? It's telling you, look, we're going to guarantee this because I know that we're going to be able to perform. So we have a lot of guarantees. If you sign up with us, if you're unhappy within the first 3 months, I'll refund you all of the money that you've paid for management, right? We guarantee tenants. If your tenant has been placed in your property and they don't stay for 6 months, I'll find you another tenant at no cost. I eat the cost. So those are just some of the guarantees. It's really important to have those. We warrant that if we can lease a property in 30 days or less, or it's free. Those are the kinds of things that you need to have. Service guarantees are important to make sure that you're performing at a high level.
Well, you know what? It's all about how you care about your clients. And that's what I love when I listen to you, because you're all about taking care, each and every one of them, making sure that they're happy, and making sure that they're being comfortable, especially with some of them that are, not even here in this state or in this country.
That's right. So the key here is to make sure that the management company and the owner have interests aligned, right? So we're making sure that when the owner's successful, so are we, and when we're successful, so is the owner. It's incredibly important.
It absolutely is, and that's what makes you great. You've been doing this for a very long time. Your phone number direct, it's 480-626-4062. It's DenaliArizona.com.